$1 billion is an enormous amount of money. To make it easier to understand, that's equivalent to $1,000 million. This isn't just the price of a house, a car, or a business. With this much money, you could have a very tall building constructed. You could buy a giant yacht. You could fund an advanced aircraft. And you could also do projects that are usually only for the government, the military, or billionaires. But is this really true? Is there really just one thing that costs $1 billion? And that's what we're going to find out. But before we start the discussion, I'd like to ask you for a like and please subscribe to our channel. This is already a huge help for us content creators. So let's get started. Number 15, the $2 billion stealth bomber. The B-2 Spirit is one of the most expensive aircraft ever made by man. This is not an ordinary airplane. It is a stealth bomber of the United States Air Force. Stealth means it was made to be hard to detect by radar. That's why its shape is unusual. It doesn't have a tail like an ordinary airplane. Its whole body looks like a large wing. It was made by Northrop Grumman to penetrate the enemy's strong air defenses. According to Reuters, each B-2 is estimated to cost around $2.1 billion. But it's important to understand this. The price doesn't just include the airplane itself. It also covers research, testing, development, special parts, and other expenses for the entire program. At first, more B-2s were supposed to be made, but after the Cold War, the need decreased. In the end, only 21 were produced. Because only a few were made, the average cost of each one became even higher. It's just like this. If you spend a huge amount to design and test something, then only make a few units, each one will end up being more expensive. That's why the B-2 ended up costing so much. But in exchange, America got one of the most advanced bombers in the world. It can travel extremely long distances, it can carry heavy weapons, and it can enter places that ordinary aircraft can't easily get into. This is the reason why the B-2 is expensive. It's not just because it can fly. It's expensive because it was made to be almost invisible. It's hard to stop, and it can reach distant targets. In other words, the B-2 is not just a plane. It's a flying weapon system worth billions of dollars. Number 14, the floating billionaire palace. The Azam is one of the largest private yachts in the world. To make it easier to imagine, it's almost as long as 2 football fields put together. It was built by the German shipbuilder Lürssen and launched in 2013. According to reports, the cost of building it reached around $600 million. But the expenses don't end there. Because a yacht like this isn't just something you buy. It also needs to be maintained every year. It needs a crew. It needs fuel. It needs maintenance. It needs insurance. And it needs to be taken care of like a floating palace. There are reports that the running cost reaches around $50 million or even more each year. This is not an ordinary boat. It's like a mansion floating on the sea. It has its own crew, it has a very powerful engine, and it can move fast even with its massive size. And the most surprising thing is, this is a private yacht. That means this isn't a cruise ship for thousands of passengers. It's not public transport. It's not a military ship either. This is an extremely large luxury yacht made for only a few people. So the Azam is not just a symbol of wealth, it's also a symbol of extreme extravagance. Because even when it's just docked, the expenses continue for fuel, for crew, for repairs, for security, and for everything needed to keep it like a palace at sea. Number 13, the $1 billion subway mile. In other places, subway tunnels are already expensive, but in New York City, the price is on another level. A mile of subway tunnel there can reach $1 billion. One of the most common examples is the 2nd Avenue subway. According to the NYU Transit Cost Project, New York is among the most expensive places in the world when it comes to building subways. There are estimates that reached almost $3.9 billion per mile for the 2nd Avenue subway extension. Why is it so expensive? First, this is New York. Underground, you don't just find soil. There are water pipes, there are gas lines, there are electric cables, there are sewer pipes, there are internet cables, and there are foundations of old buildings. So before digging, you first need to find out what's underneath. If you hit something, it could disrupt the services of the whole area. Second, the permit and review process takes a long time. There are a lot of studies, a lot of approvals, a lot of things need to be sorted out before construction can begin. Third, labor and construction are expensive in New York. So even if the tunnel is just 1 mile long, the price is like that of a mega project. What's frustrating here is that New York really needs the subway. There are so many passengers. The system is old, and it needs additional lines. But because building is so expensive, expansion is very slow. That's why a tunnel in New York is not just a tunnel. It's an example of how a simple public transport project turns into a billion-dollar expense, especially when you do it in the hardest and most expensive city. Number 12, the billion-dollar medicine. A new drug isn't just made in a laboratory and immediately sold. Before it reaches the pharmacy, it goes through a very long process. It can take 10 to 15 years before a new drug is approved. And according to some medical research studies, the cost of developing a new drug can reach over $1 billion. It depends on the type of drug and the method of calculation. Why is it so expensive? Because many drugs fail before they reach people. First, it is tested in the laboratory. Afterwards, it goes through preclinical testing. If it looks safe, it proceeds to clinical trials. In phase 1, they check if it is safe for a small group of people. In phase 2, they check if it works on patients. In phase 3, it is tested on more people to find out if it is truly effective and safe. This is where the costs usually increase. Doctors are needed, researchers are needed, hospitals are needed, thousands of participants are needed, and it takes many years of testing. The hard part is, even after spending hundreds of millions of dollars, the drug can still fail in the final phase. When that happens, the money can't be recovered. That's why a successful drug doesn't just pay for its own expenses. Sometimes it also carries the costs of many drugs that were tried but didn't succeed. This is why only big companies can usually afford this kind of risk. If a small company bets on a drug and it fails, they could lose everything. But if it's a big pharmaceutical company, they can recover and try again. That's why a new drug is not just a product. It's a very expensive gamble in science. If it succeeds, it can help a lot of people. But before that happens, billions of dollars could be lost along the way. Number 11, the billion-dollar ocean platform. The deepwater oil platform is not an ordinary oil rig. It's a massive structure in the middle of the sea. This is where oil is extracted from beneath the seabed. Sometimes it's thousands of feet deep. That's why simple machinery isn't enough. It needs drilling equipment, underwater pipes, cranes, a helipad, lifeboats, a control room, and living quarters for the crew who work there for several weeks. According to reports in the energy industry, large offshore oil projects can easily reach over $1 billion, and a single deep water well can exceed $100 million. This means the platform is just the beginning of the expenses. First, the oil needs to be found. Drilling is required, pipes need to be connected under the sea, and the entire system needs to be kept running even with strong waves, storms, and dangerous conditions. This kind of platform is like a small industrial city in the middle of the sea. There are people, there's a power system, there are communication systems, there's safety equipment, and it operates 24 hours a day. But even though it's extremely expensive, profit is not guaranteed. If the price of oil drops, production decreases, or equipment encounters problems, the company can lose a lot of money. That's why a deep water oil platform is not just a symbol of engineering. It's also a billion-dollar gamble under the sea. Number 10, the billion-dollar country economy. For a big company, $1 billion can be just a single investment. For a wealthy person, this could be the price of a yacht, mansion, or private project. But for some small countries, $1 billion is even bigger. Then their entire economy in a year. GDP means the total value of all products and services produced by a country in 1 year. To put it simply, it's the measure of how big a country's economy is. According to World Bank data, there are some Pacific Island countries with an annual GDP of less than $1 billion. For example, Tuvalu is around $62 million. Nauru is around $162 million. The Marshall Islands is around $290 million, and Palau is around $276 million, according to the latest available data. It's important to say this with respect. These countries are truly nations. They have their own government. They have culture. They have people. They have history. And they are facing serious problems, especially with climate change and rising sea levels. They are not small because they have no value. Their economy is just small because their population is small. The land area is small, and resources are limited. Here you can see how big $1 billion is. A single subway tunnel, an aircraft, or a luxury project can be more expensive than the entire annual economy of a sovereign country. It's surprising to think about. In one place, $1 billion is just a single item. But in other countries, that's even bigger than everything their entire economy earned in a year. That's the true scale of $1 billion. Number 9, how gamers spend $1 billion fast. The video game industry is no longer just a small hobby. It's now one of the biggest entertainment businesses in the world. According to Reuters, the global video game market is expected to reach around $189 billion by 2025. This means that in just a few days, the entire gaming industry can earn almost $1 billion. This doesn't just come from console games. It also includes PC games, mobile games, and in-app purchases, subscriptions, game skins, battle passes, and other digital items that players buy. The biggest part of this is mobile gaming. These are the games played on cell phones while waiting, resting, or just sitting at home. Before, some people thought gaming was just for kids, but now it's bigger than many traditional entertainment industries. What's surprising here is that people don't need to buy physical items. Sometimes what people buy are just character skins, extra lives, special weapons, or small upgrades within the game. But because there are millions of players around the world, the total becomes huge. That's why the gaming industry isn't just about games anymore. It's now $1 billion machine. As long as there are people playing on their cell phones, consoles, or computers, the money keeps coming in. Number 8, the $1 billion space shuttle flight. The space shuttle is one of NASA's most ambitious projects. It was made to carry people and cargo into space. The idea back then was that space travel would be cheaper because the shuttle was reusable. This means it would be used again after every mission. But in reality, it wasn't that simple. From 1981 to 2011, the Space Shuttle program completed 135 missions. According to analyses mentioned by Space.com, the average cost of each launch reached almost $1.5 billion. Brother, if you divide the total program cost by the number of missions, why is it so expensive? Because even though the shuttle is reusable, it still needs to be inspected and repaired after every flight. It's not like an airplane that you just clean and then fly again the next day. Every launch requires a large team, thorough inspection, repairs, fuel training, and safety checks. So even if it's reusable, it doesn't automatically mean it's cheap. The space shuttle is very advanced, but it's also extremely complicated. And when a machine is more complicated, it's more expensive to maintain. So the lesson here is simple. It's not enough for a spacecraft to just be reusable. It should also be easy to maintain, quick to prepare again, and each flight shouldn't be too expensive. The space shuttle brought people to space, helped build the International Space Station, and became a major part of space history. But when it comes to costs, it's also one of the most expensive ways to leave Earth. Number 7, the $1 billion tower in dollars. The Burj Khalifa in Dubai is the tallest building in the world. According to MR, it reaches 828 meters and has 163 floors. To put it simply, it's so tall that it's like stacking several skyscrapers on top of each other. This is not an ordinary building. There are hotels, offices, residences, restaurants, and observation decks where you can see Dubai from a very high place. It's estimated to be around $1.5 billion. That's the cost of building it. Why is it so expensive? Because it's not easy to build a structure this tall. In Dubai, it's extremely hot. That's why sometimes the concrete has to be poured at night so it doesn't get damaged by the heat. A special method is also needed to bring the concrete up to the extremely high floors. And as the building gets taller, it becomes harder to protect it against the wind. That's why it wasn't simply built. The shape was carefully studied. The strength of the wind was studied. Advanced engineering was also used. The Burj Khalifa is not just tall. It is a symbol of immense wealth, powerful design, and the ambition of Dubai. For just one building, the cost was already $1.5 billion. Number 6, the billion-dollar race team. Formula One is not just a simple race. It is one of the most expensive sports in the world. For an F1 team to compete in a season, they need a car, engineers, mechanics, drivers, a factory, testers, testing, travel, and spare parts. And we're not just talking about one race here. It's a whole season, many countries, many races, and almost a whole year of preparation. In 2026, according to Formula One itself, the cost cap increased to $215 million. But not all expenses are included in this. There are things that are still separate from the cap, like driver salaries, some senior staff salaries, marketing, and other major expenses. That's why the actual annual spending of the top teams can reach hundreds of millions of dollars. Why is it expensive? Because every small part of an F1 car is extremely advanced. The front wing alone can be extremely expensive. The steering wheel is full of buttons and controls. The engine system is very technical. And when the car crashes, millions of dollars can be lost in an instant. What's even more painful is that even if you spend a huge amount, you're still not guaranteed to win. In Formula One, big money is not a guarantee of a championship. Sometimes it's just a ticket to keep up with the strongest teams. That's why an F1 team is not just a sports team. It's a racing machine that burns hundreds of millions of dollars just to compete in the fastest league in the world. Number 5, the billion-dollar Wembley Stadium. Wembley Stadium in England is not just an ordinary stadium. For many football fans, this is the home of English football. This is where the big matches are held. This is where the FA Cup final takes place. This is also where the England national team plays. The new Wembley was opened in 2007 and has 90,000 seats. It also has a huge arch that is clearly visible in London. According to Wembley Stadium, the new venue cost around £750 million, while other construction references put it at around £798 million. Why is it so expensive? First, it's huge. Second, it had to replace the old Wembley in the same location. And third, it couldn't just be an ordinary stadium. It had to live up to the Wembley name. It needed to be modern. It needed to be iconic. It needed to be able to host football, concerts, boxing, NFL games, and other major events. That's why Wembley is not just a venue, it's a national symbol. And sometimes, when what you're building is not just a building but a symbol of a nation, it costs billions. Number 4, the billion-dollar sports team. An NFL team is not an ordinary sports team. It's like a membership in one of the most exclusive clubs in American sports. In 2022, the Walton Penner Group bought the Denver Broncos for $4.65 billion. Then in 2023, the Washington Commanders were sold for $6.05 billion, which became a new record in the NFL. Why is a team this expensive? It's not just because of the players. It's not just because of the stadium. And it's not just because of the yearly income. The real reason is scarcity. There are only 32 NFL teams, and there are many billionaires who want to own one. When a team is up for sale, that's rare. That's why the price keeps going up. For wealthy buyers, they're not just buying a business. They're buying the right to be the owner of an NFL franchise. And in the world of sports, that's a big status symbol. That's why the price of an NFL team can go beyond several billion dollars. It's not because it's only worth one season, but because it's rare to get the chance to buy a team with a permanent spot in the biggest football league in America. Number 3, the billion-dollar nuclear plant. Hinkley Point C in England is one of the most expensive power projects in the world. It's a nuclear power plant being built in Somerset, England. Once completed, it's expected to provide a large amount of electricity for the United Kingdom, but its price is extremely high. According to World Nuclear News, EDF said in 2024 that the estimated cost of Hinkley Point C has risen to 31 to 34 billion pounds at 2015 prices. and it is not expected to operate before 2030. Why is it this expensive? Because a nuclear plant is not just any power plant. It needs to be extremely safe. It needs to operate for many decades. And it needs to control the nuclear reaction without posing a major risk to the public. That's why every design, every material, and every part of the construction goes through intense review. If there are delays, the costs go even higher. If there are not enough workers or materials, that's another added cost. That's why Hinkley Point C has become an example of a project that is important but extremely expensive to build. Some say it's worth it because it will provide clean electricity for many years to come. But there are also others who ask if it would have been better to spend the money on renewable energy, battery storage, or energy efficiency instead. That's why Hinkley Point C is not just a power plant. It's a big question. How much are we willing to pay for stable and low-carbon electricity? Number 2, the $2 billion cruise ship. The Icon of the Seas is one of the largest cruise ships in the world. It was built for Royal Caribbean and entered service in 2024. According to reports, it costs around $2 billion. It's like a floating city with 20 decks, thousands of rooms, restaurants, bars, pools, water slides, and entertainment areas. And it can carry thousands of guests along with more than 2,000 crew members. This isn't just a simple ship that transports people from one place to another. This is the destination itself. Many passengers board not just to see the sea, but to experience everything the floating resort has to offer. Why did it cost $2 billion? Because it needs to combine a hotel, mall, theme park, restaurant, theater, and ship into one giant vessel. It also needs to be safe at sea. It needs powerful engines, navigation systems, lifeboats, crew areas, and thousands of systems that must work every day. That's why the Icon of the Seas is not just a cruise ship, it's a floating resort. And its size shows how far luxury travel has come. Number 1, the giant Sphere of Las Vegas. The Sphere in Las Vegas is not an ordinary concert venue. It looks like a giant ball with a screen on the outside. And at night, it can look like an eyeball, a planet, the moon, or any image they want to show. According to reports, the cost of building it reached around $2.3 billion. On the outside, it's covered with a massive LED display. That's why you can see it from far away. Inside, there's a huge screen that surrounds the audience. The visuals aren't just in front. They're above, on the sides, and almost all around the viewer. That's why it feels like you're actually inside the scene. It also has an advanced sound system. It's designed so the audience can feel the sound coming from different directions. So it's not just about watching a concert or film. It's like your whole body is part of the experience. Why is it so expensive? Because this is almost a new kind of building. It's not just an arena. It's not just a billboard. It's not just a cinema. It combines architecture, giant screen technology, sound design, and entertainment into one massive project. That's why the Sphere is perfect for Las Vegas, because in a city known for its lights, shows, and massive attractions, this is one of the strongest answers to the question, what does $2.3 billion look like when you spend it just to amaze people?